Okay, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Public Practice Accountants Club on Clubhouse. So, we're public practitioner, thought leaders, and industry specialists and accountants just like you discuss the hot topics in public practice and how they go about navigating the public practice landscape all around the world. So, fundamentally, we know that public practice has the same principles, dynamics, and challenges no matter where we are in the world. We might have some different tax seasons, some busy periods, and legislation, but at the core, we are very much the same. So, the room this morning is your business partnership going to split? And are you sure? Now, a very interesting topic to dig our teeth into, and I hope you'll enjoy it with me this morning. So, let me introduce myself. I see a few new people in the Clubhouse stratosphere. Good morning, everybody. My name is Linda Steffens, and I am an accountant and author and an introvert. And I have been hanging around public practice now for just over 30 years. So time flies when you're having fun. But mostly my day-to-day now is all about educating and coaching accountants specifically in the leadership space and also very much in the advisory services space. So I'm missing my co-host this morning. You're used to seeing our beautiful Kylie Baxter, but she's taking a little bit of time away. So we'll hopefully have her back sometime in the future. So you've got me today with Is Your Business Partnership Going to Split and Are You Sure? So just a quick reminder, we are a CPA discussion group, so you can get your CPE and CPD points for listening in, yay us. And also that if you're interested in some of the other topics that Kylie and I have done over the last, bit more than 12 months now, almost 2 years. They are there. You can find them in replays on Clubhouse or also over on my YouTube channel. So if you're listening in on Facebook or on LinkedIn, we can certainly see your comments if you make some comments on those platforms. And for those of you that are in Clubhouse, please chat with us using the little chat box there if you'd like, particularly because I'm on my own this morning. Your chat would make me feel that I'm not just here all alone, that you are listening in to what I'm saying. And so if you do have any questions or you'd like to chat with me, that's very easy to do just through those channels. All right. So let's get started. And just another quick reminder that remember our intention is always to be positive, supportive and collaborative as we come together in support of our amazing industry, no matter where we are in the world. Alrighty. So is your business partnership going to split and are you sure? Well, 10 years into my career, I was absolutely blindsided with my own partnership split. Although the writing was on the wall, I had the attitude of, well, it's not going to happen to me, is it? So there was no planning around that. I think I just really stuck my head in the sand. And when the split happened, well, I can tell you I didn't cope very well at all. I don't think anybody really does with these sorts of things, but I certainly did not. So since then, I've helped many accounting firm partners try to navigate partnership splits effectively, and it's very tough on many levels. So what we're going to talk about today is certainly more of my experience, what on reflection I can see was happening in the lead up to that. How do you deal with it when it happens to you? Can you see that potential split coming? How can you avoid it? Or should you even avoid it? Because some, we go on to do different things, perhaps bigger and better things, who knows, but different things. So I'm a firm believer in that a lot of things happen for a reason. So, perhaps we shouldn't avoid some of these things that feel, very awkward and awful at the time. Can you ever be prepared for this type of event? Well, we'll investigate those a little bit further as we go through this morning. Oh, good morning, Rowena. Thank you for tuning in again. It's lovely to see you. And let me know, of course, if you've got any questions about this. So as accountants, and certainly in public practice, I know I've helped quite a number of business owners over the years with issues with their partnerships, challenges with their partnerships or business relationships. You often will see it too, unfortunately. If you want to look at it, there's another level that you can look at. A divorce when there's business involved, can be a similar situation. So, we're not uneducated around these types of things, but when it happens to you, it's a whole different story. So let's talk about, I suppose, what happened to me. And in the lead up to happening with what was happening to me, on reflection, I think that what was going on was certainly a difference in opinion. There was partnerships often come together because the partners have, you have something the other one wants, right? It's a mutual relationship. It works at the time when you decided to go into partnership. There was something that benefited both of you, a win-win situation, whether that's an investment in your company or your firm, whether that's a complementary skill set, whether it's a step up the professional ladder. And I think sometimes, particularly in professional services and particularly in accounting, I see a lot of the step up the professional ladder happening and people entering partnerships in this sphere that may not be on consideration, if you looked at everything, may not be quite the right thing for both practitioners at the time. So there's something, I think, in saying that there's a lot that you can look at in the lead up to going into partnership is one thing. Why are you doing it? And Kylie and I have talked regularly about always going back to the strategy of why you're doing something and really mapping out what you're hoping to achieve. And I think if you've done that, then that's a really good starting point. And don't be afraid that if the answer comes up when you start looking at it, that the answer is no. The answer is no, perhaps I shouldn't go into partnership, even though it might be my professional step up the ladder or what's been seen as that professional step up the ladder. So I think we've got to be a little bit careful about that, a little bit more eyes open around what a business partnership should be, what we're trying to achieve, because a business partnership, once we're in, it's a bit like a marriage, as you can imagine. You ideally want to be in it for the long term. And look, things change, and nothing's written in stone. Clearly, that's why we have a lot of these partnership splits. But you really want to make a good go of it. And so just working out if you're in the right place, the right time, with mutual goals, and looking to the future and what that looks like, I think is a good start. So I want to broach there that as you're entering in or even looking at or even in a partnership now, is the ability to have open and safe conversations. So that's certainly something that I help with as a coach, and a lot of things that I've been doing over the last couple of years have resulted in helping partners in businesses have open and safe conversations. So if I reflect back on where I started my conversation as to what was happening with me, at the time, just before or leading up to my partnership split, were we having open and safe conversations? And I'd have to say, probably not. The looking at it, and that was not a result of necessarily my business partner at the time. That was not what was going on. Not that she would have been open to that or not open to that. I don't know, because I never asked, and that's the thing, or I never broached that. I think I felt like a little bit like I was the junior partner at the time. I was given this opportunity, and I had been looking for this professional step up the ladder. And so it was an opportunity that I saw great value in when I took it up. And it did deliver great value to me over the years, even though when it did split, it was difficult for both of us. It's difficult for all parties, don't get me wrong. There's never a winner in any of these things. There's only two losers, and it just depends on how well you handle that, So that's why it is so important, if you can, certainly have those open and safe conversations right from the get-go. So were we having open and safe conversations? No, I don't think we were. More as a result of me, I think. When I look at it, I didn't feel like I could, have those open and safe conversations, only because I felt I was in a learning position. I felt I needed to learn. I felt I couldn't put my stamp on the partnership. I felt I needed to really just wait for my business partner to take the lead on things. And I think because then the partnership really didn't have my own stamp on how things were going to proceed or what that looked like. I think then over time, we just lost our way a little bit and lost our way with mutual goals. So I think that can happen, certainly from the perspective in a lot of different relationships, whether you're a manager, whether you're a partner, whether it's a personal relationship. It's something that I've recognized that I certainly do. And I think a lot of other accountants, just simply because of our communication style, we quite like being given direction. And so it's not natural for us to necessarily take the lead. Now, that's not everybody, but it certainly was the case for me at the time. It's switched up over the years now. I've learned that side of myself, that communication side and what's natural to me. And I think the thing is when I am aware enough that I'm in situations where I need to take the lead and that taking the lead will be the right thing for me to do in that situation, then I can dial that up. I make a conscious choice to do that. So I think, who would have thought, is your business partnership going to split? Comes back to communication. Funny, another thing Kylie and I talk about all of the time. So we've hit on two big common themes that we talk about, I think almost every room that we chat about. Anyone you can who's listening in this morning, you can certainly prove me wrong if I'm not chatting about that all of the time. But planning, why do we do what we do? What should we be looking for? And two, communication. And more importantly, our ability to communicate. So another thing that I firmly believe in is that, well, the only thing that we can control is how we feel, think, and react to situations. We can't control anything else around us. Pointless trying. All that does is get us very stressed out and worried, and is not helpful. So how do we think, feel, and react to things is where we need to focus our energy. And I'd like to always try to find certainly the positive spin on things. And so with our communication, I think it's up to us to sit back and go, okay, well, I need to be open, upfront, and have these conversations. So communication, very, very important as far as business partnerships go. So no, I don't think we were having open and safe conversations in the lead up, certainly to my business partnership split. What else, if I look back at what happened with me at that time? I think that was really probably the main thing that was going on. We just started to go in different directions, and we just were not communicating about that so well. And then it really came to a head, and then the communication was really, we couldn't see a way forward. So we had left it then just a little bit too late, or I had left it a little bit too late. So, it is what it is. But I think that leads very much into the next thing is, how can you avoid it? Well, I think if you're having those safe and open conversations right from the word go, then that's your ability. You certainly have a chance to avoid it if you see something coming up. But should you avoid it? And, I reflect on my situation now, and like I said, it was an awful, awful time for both myself and my business partner at the time. They're not pleasant. And emotionally, financially, mentally, they're not pleasant. And so, I think the thing is should we have avoided it? No, I don't think we should have. I think it was clear that it was something that we both went on and respectively did great things, apart. So our businesses have only benefited from certainly our time together, but then our time apart. So no, should you necessarily avoid all of this? No, I don't think so. I think it's par for the course, really. And if anybody's got any personal, comments or anything that they want to chat about this morning, please let me know. Very, very happy to take your comments and to direct the conversation in whichever way you would like it to go. Okay. So I'm just going to harp on these open and safe conversations for just a little bit longer, and in what sort of vehicles, in a pragmatic sense, how do we make these open and safe conversations happen? So I think from a management point of view, I like something called a director's retreat. And these are things that I run a lot of the time with the accounting firms that I work with. They work very, very well. And as a facilitator, I make sure that right from the get-go, we're understanding that it is a safe place to speak, that it's okay that whatever happens in this room amongst the directors is absolutely confidential, as it always would be, but it's safe, that you can say what you feel, what needs to be said. And often, I think, because of our communication style, which I spoke about, I didn't know how to speak up for myself. I wasn't sure whether I could. It just wasn't part of my communication profile. I didn't know really how to go about it. Even though I was feeling it, I didn't know how to voice my opinion. So what I often do in the lead up to these retreats is, as a facilitator, and a one-on-one situation, most of us are more comfortable with. Bigger groups of people can freak us out a little bit. They freak me out a little bit. But, the one-on-one conversation, I think, is okay. And with someone you trust is important, to help you verbalize, to help you articulate what you're feeling. Now, if you don't have a facilitator or a coach around, someone like me, definitely a personal friend. Probably not anyone in the business, that's probably not going to help, but someone that you can absolutely trust to be 100% confidential with you about what you're talking about, and to understand your point of view. Someone you respect that might be able to help you out, to just help you verbalize what that is. Take some notes down, and then when you have this meeting of directors or partnership partners, that you've got some notes, to prompt yourself, to know what to say, when to say it, and how to go about it. So I work very hard at these directors' retreats to enable this safe and open conversations, because so important when it comes to business partnerships. Now, everything that I'm talking about here today, you can absolutely use either with your clients, if you are in public practice. You can use it as a manager to help with mentoring and things like that. So they're techniques, open and safe conversations, the one-on-one communication. You can use it in a variety of situations, even if you're not in a business partnership. But you can certainly, some of this advice certainly applies to our clients. So, you know, we've all been in situations where we've probably had to deal with that. Okay, so moving on from that, what else is something that I've regularly seen over the years with regard to partnership splits, I suppose, particularly in accounting? One that particularly comes to mind that I was involved in as a advisor was a larger partnership, and I think it was a very, very successful business, very successful practice financially. But what was happening is that, and this is where the question comes in, should you avoid these things? You know, even if you see them coming, I think the most proactive thing is if you all agree that, no, maybe we shouldn't avoid this, then maybe it can be a little bit easier on the way through if you actually agree that splitting is a good thing, you know, that it doesn't have to be quite so emotionally charged. And I know others have done that, you know, which is a great thing. But it certainly takes some personal awareness and that ability to have those conversations to get to there. So what I was seeing happening in this partnership was that I don't know whether they were aware of or just so busy in doing their everyday that they didn't recognize and certainly didn't celebrate the differing partners' strengths and or recognize their weaknesses either. So, you know, right back again at the beginning, why do we go into business partnerships? Well, it's very much about a win-win situation. Another person has something that we see will be a benefit, and together we can do better. So business partnerships are a wonderful thing, I have to admit. After, you know, I went through my own business partnership split, I swore and declared that I would never enter another business partnership. But lo and behold, guess what? I have. But that's because I've learned a lot from that. So everything that I'm telling you about today has been what I have learned over time. And, you know, it's then about creating a successful business partnership going forward. So I'm actually in a couple of different business partnerships now. And I think from my experience, they're all the better for it. So I hope you're all the better for it today too, as we keep chatting away here. All right. So celebrating, recognizing, even investigating our own strengths and weaknesses. Now, sometimes that can be a little bit in your face. That can be a little bit awkward, I suppose. We're probably all good looking at our strengths. Yeah, that's great. But are we willing to have a look at our weaknesses? I know I certainly am. I'm not good at everything. Definitely not. There's certain areas of my business and that's why both of these existing partnerships that I'm in have come into play. They've been a skills acquirement, I suppose. But ultimately, both my business partners understood and believed in my vision for what I wanted these businesses to be. So we had a lot of conversations leading into it. I am very strategic in my focus now about how I go about things. So I knew where I was going and what I'm hoping to achieve, and I was able to articulate that. So Again, sorry, I'm circling. No, I'm not sorry. I'm circling right back around to the start again and back to planning. What do you want to achieve? So again, I can't ram that home enough. But yeah, this partnership that did split, it just didn't they weren't looking at everybody's different strengths and weaknesses. So there were a number of partners in this partnership, and they absolutely complemented each other. But when the relationship started to break down for one reason or another, there were a couple of things going on, and you see this regularly. Your life goals, I suppose, might change. Your where you're at in life might be different. In this case, there were some younger partners and some older partners. And but the whole thing was all of their collective skills actually complemented each other, and they were doing very well as a result. But when it came down to it, I think there wasn't enough, quite enough recognition of that around what that meant to enable us to, I suppose if you call it, go with the flow with some things that just annoy us in a relationship and other things that we, quite happy to celebrate. So again, you can align this back to a marriage. I'm sure that anybody's in any type of personal relationship, a long-term personal relationship, there's all those little bits and pieces that just niggle away at us, isn't there, that we don't necessarily enjoy about our partners or our friends, but there's something else that keeps us in that relationship, and if you found yourself focusing on those negative things, well, guess what? That's what you're going to get out in the end. It's not going to be a great situation. So the same thing in business partnerships, and that's something when I have to have some hard conversations with some of my business clients now, they're talking about their business partnerships. I do absolutely 100% challenge them to think back to why they went into the partnership first, to look at perhaps what's changed over the years, and have we reflected on really what the both parties are bringing to the relationship, and is that enough to keep going? Is that enough to still enable the vision of what you had when you went into partnership? And if it is not, well, then I think we can proactively do something about it. So I'm not pro for staying in partnerships if they're not working, certainly not. But I'm also not against partnerships as a whole, being that I've certainly been on both sides of the coin, and absolutely very happy in my current business partnership arrangements. All right. So I'm just looking at my notes here, and it's just said thinking about what you want and communicating that to your partners. So that's back to those open and safe conversations. So I was chatting with some students of mine yesterday, and we were talking about open and real conversations. And because, again, of how I think we're made up as accountants, or particularly me as an introvert as well, we find it hard to just articulate often what we're feeling or what's going on in our heads. So it takes us, our strategy around, well, my strategy is I just need to take more time to get that either down on paper, to say it out loud. Talking out loud is, whilst it seems really silly, I often just talk to my computer screen or talk to the chair or something, because I understand now that when I say things out loud, I actually hear how they sound, and it helps me refine them, I suppose, is a good way of looking at it. Refine what I'm thinking about. Did that come out the right way? Is that really what I wanted to say? So taking the time to plan, to think about what you want to say, use those strategies of definitely taking notes, getting things down on paper, keeping that with you, because when we're put on the spot, that is not when we will perform our best in most situations. So preparation is the key. Okay. Can we ever take the emotion out of these things? Oh, golly gosh, no. It's very hard. We're all imperfectly human, aren't we? And emotion is part of it. Whilst for the most part, I think business partnerships and relationships, um, we do try to keep them as non-emotional as possible, but particularly when you're in a business partnership for some time, you often become quite good friends. You may become to rely on that person for one thing or another, particularly if you've got some differing skill sets. And then also too, I think, when that starts to break down, it can be, there's a lot of feelings that happen. And again, no, I don't think you can take the emotion out of it. But again, it's going back to how can we control how we feel, think, and react to that. And I think if we can process that in our own time and understand what that looks like, then we've got a much better chance of, let's say, holding it together when we've got to have some of those difficult conversations. Now, one other situation, and look, if anyone's got any questions for me, or if you'd like to investigate any of the particular areas that I've been chatting about, of course, please type in a question. Let me know what's going on. Let me know what you're thinking, because I'm happy to answer any questions or chat in that direction for you. Right. So let's talk a little bit more. It's just that conversation about emotions has just reminded me of something as well. And particularly where you see perhaps this professional step up the ladder happen when a partnership comes into play. For the person stepping up the ladder and entering that partnership, I would gather that most would see their more senior partners, let's call them that, not necessarily in age, but perhaps in experience, in business experience or in professional experience. They would see them as somewhat of a mentor, somewhat of a leader, somewhat of someone that they can learn things from. And whilst the partnerships are going along swimmingly, that certainly is the case, and all things are happy and well, and you're there learning, you're watching, and it might not be a recognized mentoring situation, but it most definitely is. So when these relationships start to sour, what can happen, and what I've certainly talked to some practitioners about, is when you see this person that you have had a lot of respect for, perhaps not act as appropriately with how they're communicating or what they're doing, or how you feel that people should act within a partnership, can be extremely confronting. It can be very disappointing for you. And I think the thing is that, again, it's how do you feel, think, and react to that situation. It's sad to see that happen, and all those emotions naturally will come up. And I think you just, it's working through that for yourself, and just remembering that your business partner is also human. And I think that, when we informally enter into some of these mentoring or leadership relationships, we can sometimes, pop people up on a bit of a pedestal. So, but they are only human too. They are completely imperfectly human as the rest of us are. And they have also their strengths and weaknesses. But I've, heard a lot of that happening, because I think in accounting, we 100% see partnerships forming with younger colleagues that are taking that step up the ladder. So just, I suppose, be wary of that, be aware of that, be open to that. We are all only human. Okay, so could I have seen it coming? Yes, absolutely. I could have seen it coming. Was I open to see it coming? No, probably not. You never really want it to happen to you. It's all just a bit scary. You're not sure where it's going to go, what's going to happen. And for the best part of, you just, I know with myself, once I'm in something, I'm 100% in, and I don't like to see things end. That's just not good. But as I reflect on it, what could I have done to avoid it? Nothing. I don't think I really could have done anything to avoid it. It was just something that really, when I look back, was always probably going to happen. We were going to go in our different ways. And that was just because we needed to go in different ways on a professional level. So that's fine. Can you ever be prepared for this type of thing? Not fully. I don't think you can fully. I think you can certainly have a lot of things in place, a lot of certainly, and I'll get to the legal side of things in just a minute. But yes, you can certainly have some preparation. And I think, again, if you've planned, if you've had that communication, those open and safe conversations, if you're have been looking at it and at least recognizing strengths and weaknesses in the partnership, I think you are well on your way to being prepared if a business partnership is a necessary evil, and I think that's a good way of putting it. So did I fight it the whole way? I think I did. I think I felt like I was a bit of a failure in the whole episode. Was it me? What did I do wrong? What didn't I do? And, again, on reflection, that's why I'm thinking that, sometimes these things just need to happen. So having all of that lead up again, that planning, that communication, all of that, helps you probably spot it a little bit earlier, and not just get busy with doing what you do, but actually spending some time on your business partnership itself. Okay, so can you prepare for this type of thing? Just if we talk about a bit of the legal side of things, I think that's one thing that in professional services and certainly in accounting, we're not adverse to legal agreements, partnership agreements, shareholder agreements, all the lovely documents our lawyers really love us to have. And they're a very good thing. They are absolutely 100% important. And I think if you, not just from a legal perspective or the protection that they can afford us one way or another, but the fact to enable us to realise that we are entering something serious here when we do enter a business partnership. We should invest time and money in thinking about what might happen if we can't agree on things. And that's one thing that I say to everybody, whether they're in business or not. When we're talking legal agreements, I say to everybody, these legal agreements are here for times when we can't agree. When we are agreeing and everything's fine, then you can agree on whatever you want to have happen. But when you can't agree, that's when you need to go back to this baseline. And that's what these legal agreements are about. So what is the baseline from an asset protection perspective, our behavior perspective, our professionalism, from even just corporate legislation, all of those types of things that ultimately can affect a business going forward. So the legal agreements, the partnership agreements, shareholder agreements, whatever they are, very, very important to put in place. And in true accounting style, I have seen a lot of accounting partnerships be formed without these agreements in place. And 5 years later, 6 years later, 10 years later, all of a sudden someone says we better have these legal agreements in place, and then it's an interesting approach to how you put them together, because we've all got different ideas on what that looks like. So when is the best time to do these legal agreements as far as business partnerships go, whether that's your partnership or whether that's the partnership of perhaps a client? Definitely right at the start. Okay. And yeah, as I said, my advice is you can agree on anything, but when you don't, that's when they're super, super important. Okay, so we've decided that we can't avoid this business partnership split. It is something that we are going through. How do we sort of look after ourselves through that process? And again, I think it's that realization, that awareness that even though, there's sayings like it's just business, when it's a business partnership and relationship, it's often more than just business. So the emotions will be there, and we need some personal care and time around that. Look, some people bury themselves in work, and that's, I think, a little more avoidance than it is anything else. But if that takes your mind off things, well, great, that's good. But I think time away to actually process how you're feeling and what's going on certainly will help if you happen to find yourself in this situation. And remembering too, I know we would have done this with our business clients, and this is something I know that Kylie's very proactive with, is what's fair is not always equal. Okay, so I think, again, as professionals, we'd love to just divide the pie up into 3, 4, 5, or 50-50, however that should look, but it's not that easy, so depending on what's happening post the business partnership split, that comes into play as well. So just remembering what's fair is not always equal is another good approach. But I think if you've not cared for yourself along the way, it's very difficult then to feel, think, and react in a more moderated way, I'd say. So give yourself time to be able to deal with the emotion. And look, I know I've been in a room with business partners, and they're having trouble with their partnership, and sometimes you are trying to be in the middle, moderating a little bit, and it can be very emotional for you as well as the advisor. So not just going through your own business partnership split, but divorces with clients or business partnership splits with your clients, they can be just as emotionally taxing. And don't be afraid to, get the professionals in to help you out with some of that as well, because often it is very difficult to be 100% objective if you've looked after a business partnership yourself, or have looked after clients in that business partnership. So don't be afraid to get some legal help in that vicinity. And also, I think, again, just on that final note about if you happen to find yourself in this situation, it doesn't actually need to be harder than it needs to be. We don't have to make it harder. But the only way we can do that is probably take some time and do some things that perhaps is not our natural instinct to do. So we might go away and attempt to bury ourselves in work and just ignore it. And I know I did for a little while there. I just, and look, there might be a situation where you have to work. I certainly found myself in that situation. I had to work to enable all of my bills to get paid, and my lifestyle to continue, and my commitments to be made. So I did need to go away and work. But I think if I again look on it, I could have had some more personal support and guidance around what I was feeling at the time. That may have helped me navigate probably the most ickiest parts of what we had to go through. Don't know. I don't really know because I never had it, but I certainly encourage any of my clients now that if you do find yourself in that situation, go seek somebody to talk to, whether that's a really good friend, someone you trust, as I said before, a confidant, or someone like a life coach, a psychologist, something like that, someone in the professional environment that can be absolutely 100% objective. Because when you bring objectivity to a situation, you can certainly, hopefully, see the light at the end of the tunnel and not make it any harder than it needs to be. Okay. Well, business partnerships, is it going to split? And are you sure? So I've looked at how do you deal with it when it happens to you? Well, I've explained that using my story, and I've seen enough of them, both my own, through the eyes of others, and through obviously the eyes of clients, both in the accounting world and in the business world. Can you see a potential split coming? Yes, I think you can if you are 100% aware of really what's going on. If you haven't been taking the time on your business relationship, spending the time to look after it, to understand it, to continually speak about what you're trying to achieve together, then you're probably not going to see it coming if you're just buried in work. So I think there's a lot of things that you can do there. And I think it is, those things are also the hallmarks for a healthy business partnership anyway. So just like a personal relationship, you need to work on it. You need to spend time in it and not just getting the work done. So taking that very business-minded approach to what you're doing. How can you avoid it? Well, and should you avoid it? I think if you can see the potential split coming, you're doing all of those things, can you avoid it? Possibly, but should you avoid it, I think, is the more important question. And sometimes, no, you definitely should not avoid it. It certainly may end up being the win-win situation to actually split the partnership and move on. Even though the whole situation's confronting, it's messy, it's more than not financially, well, it'll put you backwards financially, won't it? It not necessarily destroying, but it can certainly be not a good place to be. It will cost money. It will set you back. So should you avoid it? No, not necessarily. Again, I just want to reiterate, I'm not pro or con partnerships. I'm probably actually pro partnerships now if I actually declare my allegiance there, because like I said, I'm in 2 existing business partnerships at the moment and very happy with both of them. Can you ever be prepared for this type of event? Yes, I think you can. Again, it's all that lead up work, isn't it? It's talking about planning. It's the ongoing communication, the recognition or investigation of your own strengths and weaknesses and that of your partners. And also the legal side of things, the financial side of things. I didn't touch on the insurance side of things as well. There's plenty of, insurance that comes with, a lot of these things as well. So there's a lot of things to think about that certainly legally, financially, we're set up to do. And if you don't feel experienced enough around some of those things, then get an advice from a mentor, from a coach, from another practitioner, from another business person perhaps in your life. Seek help. And take some time to think about what you want to achieve, what you're hoping this partnership brings you, and sit down and work out what that looks like. And I think then you've got a very good platform for going forward with your business partnerships. Okay, well, I hope that's helped everybody out this morning. Is your business partnership going to split? And are you sure? If you've got any questions for me, you can certainly hit me up on LinkedIn. If you're not wanting to post them this morning, that's quite all right. And next week, what will we be talking about next week? Let's have a look. Where is my notes here? Here they are. Okay. Oh, goodness gracious. It's 14th of December already. And we're wrapping up the end of the year. So next week, we'll be talking about holiday networking strategies for introverts. Oh, I'm a huge introvert. I love talking about introverts and particularly networking strategies. So I hope you can tune in for that, because that's going to be a really cool conversation given where we are in the year with all of Christmas parties and networking type events going around. So we'll have a lot of tips and tricks for you. So tune in next week. And I can't believe, oh my gosh, I've nearly talked a whole hour. That's crazy. I never thought I could do that. So there you go. All right, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day and a great week. And I will talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning in.